This is the concierge, sir.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Concierge Confidential. I'm your host, Brian Ortega, and in today's episode, we're going to be doing a little bit of talk about AI. So I usually, when I listen to podcasts and I hear this particular topic come up, I almost tune out. But I'm talking about it in relation to hospitality, because this can really be anything about, and really I'm using it as a broader idea about, automated check-ins and sort of, an automated system handling your reservations and also handling any issues that are inside of a hotel. And I'm going to explain why, or dispel why, for Vegas specifically, I think it would actually be really hard to do that, which I'll explain in the rest of the episode, why more people, even though we want efficiency, don't want like robots and automation powering our entire trip. And I'll explain why as we get into the episode. So that'll be coming up next. Okay, everybody, so diving into the episode, let's sort of jump into it. So why did I come up with this idea? So lately, as most of you know, I've been working in the higher end part of the property, Fleur-de-Lis, and it's lots of contact with guests, which people really don't think about when you're dealing with, a luxury part of the hotel. You think you're more hands-off, but really it's a lot more attention to detail and attention on the guests, which usually means that we have to interact with the guests more frequently. And actually doing that, I've found that it's really hard for like a computer to do the job that many of the people that handle any guests who are in Fleur-de-Lis would do. Just because it does take a human to be able to figure out and serve a human. So obviously for people who've come to Las Vegas, they understand that we were trying to really push towards like automated check-in desks, see how much faster we can do things. And to be quite honest with you, we've found that it does help for certain people who want to do pre-check or pre-arrival and just have their keys printed for them. And when the system works perfectly, it can be a perfect way of quickly getting to your room and not having to stand in line at the front desk. But the thing is, especially for Las Vegas specifically, and I think in today's topic, we're really going to focus on Las Vegas specific, because you do get some places, for example, like a Courtyard Marriott in, Des Moines, Iowa, for like somebody who's on business and all they want is to get their keys, go to the room, and there's no difference between the third floor and the sixth floor of like a Courtyard Marriott. Well, when you come to Vegas, we have much larger properties with a lot more room types that you're able to choose from. Sometimes you want a strip view, sometimes you want a tall floor, sometimes you want a short floor, sometimes you want to be on the floor where the pool is. And those are things that you can request, for example, when you're talking, online or setting up your reservation. But let's just say once you get to the hotel and you want to make that request, a lot of times a computer won't be able to handle that type of bandwidth. You need a human being to be able to figure out what you would need. What's a good example of this? So a really good example is, for our rooms upstairs, is that we'll have these different designations. We'll have like vacant, dirty. We have a couple different codes. We have occupied, we have vacant and dirty, we have vacant and clean. And a lot of times for the higher end rooms, they have to inspect the rooms as well. So it's really 2 points of contact have to figure out and make sure the room is ready for a guest to go inside. Well, if you have an automated system, we might have something that says it's clean, but it's really dirty, and vice versa. So it isn't a really foolproof system if it was just a robot doing it. So we actually have to, what happens is we have to actually call to our butlers, and the butlers will go inspect the room, make sure that it's clean and ready for a guest to check in. Because obviously, you would love to just walk into a room and it'd be perfect, but if you walk in a room and it's not perfect, that's where a human being has to step in. So this is why I think, specifically in the luxury market, that humans are, for the most part, here to stay for a lot of these departments, because it really takes sort of like reading between the lines and figuring out what somebody wants to be able to serve them. A really good example that I was thinking about today is that when you go to a restaurant, and my dad does this all the time, which is kind of funny because my dad always wants a specific answer and never gets the answer that he wants. So he'll always ask, what do you think? He'll ask the waiter, what do you think is good on the menu? And then the waiter will actually tell my dad, oh, I really like this on the menu. I really like this for this reason. And you get this very unique answer because a human being is giving it. And I think that that's actually very valuable because it actually helps me figure out what I do want to eat. If you end up asking, let's just say, like a robot that comes to your, because I think they were testing this out with something like at the Cheesecake Factory or something of that nature, and let's just say that you ask that question to some like AI generated robot, and they'll say, "Well, I think the chicken marsala is very good," and there's no reasoning behind it. It's just I think the chicken marsala is good. It's has this flavor, so. I think it's very interesting because when people ask me, have you eaten there before? This happens a lot when as a concierge, is that people ask you, what do you think of that restaurant? Is it good? And then I'm able to say, yes, it's, fantastic. I had the short rib pasta. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I love it. It's very hearty. It feels, very rich, and it's going to be great to feed for 2 people. And then this happens a lot with Mother Wolf while I'll be explaining the menu. And I say, well, it's very peppery, but if you like pepper, then you're really going to like it. But if you're not a big pepper person, don't be afraid to ask for it without pepper. A robot's not going to be able to explain all those things to you because they can't eat, obviously. So I think it's very valuable to have somebody who's actually dined there or experienced it to be able to explain that to a person. And the reason I kind of came up with this idea for this podcast is because I was actually in the lobby the other day, and it was a longer line. So we obviously, when we have bigger conventions, more high volume days, is the lines get long. And there was a guy who walked up to a security officer and was saying, hey, how, if I want to check in, do I just still have to wait in this line? And the police officer was like, yes, this is the line to check in. He's like, oh, like it's 1987. And you can tell this person obviously travels a lot. There's somebody who is really used to sort of automated systems, just like my brother. My brother, who loves going to Disneyland, he is very comfortable doing automated check-ins. And for Disney specifically, like if you pay for a certain room, like you're getting that room. It's just the way that they sort of operate. It's very specific. But people who are used to that, it's great. It's totally great to do like these automated check-ins. But there are a lot of people who are, sometimes older, like they're maybe in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, or somebody who's in their 30s, like myself, who really likes the interaction you can get with a front desk agent, and you can kind of like sort of let them know kind of what you're doing in town, and they're able to sort of make these sort of point of contact moves to make your stay even better. And I think that is kind of where we're at right now for Las Vegas, is that we try to do the fully automated system. One, it makes the entire lobby look terrible. Nothing makes a lobby look more ugly than an automated check-in kiosk inside of the casino. It wasn't built that way. I do remember when Caesars started using the automated check-ins, is that you would walk into the main lobby, which is beautiful, has this big giant fresco with a front desk agent stand, and then right in front of it, right when you walk into the doors, you have this replica of Julius Caesar, and it just looks beautiful. It just has this wonderful Roman wow factor. And then what do? They added 8 kiosks just to the right of the front desk, right in the center, and it really changes the whole mood of the entire lobby, which I know is very much an aesthetic thing, but it's part of your experience. The most important thing in our casino, when they are building a casino, you'll ask a lot of consultants, you'll ask a lot of professionals, what is the most important part of the hotel? And the most important part of the hotel, besides having, awesome, fantastic mattresses, is you want to make a great first impression. And what is your first impression of the hotel? It's its main lobby, the grand entrance. You want to have that wow factor. You want to feel like you've been transported and put into a certain place. That's why when you go to Hawaii, they have these like wonderful open air lobbies because that is what they are selling. They are selling you the Hawaiian experience. In Las Vegas, we are selling you whatever experience is inside of that lobby. One of my favorite things is like in hospitality is that you build your hotel for the type of people you want to come to that property. So be it like the Wynn or Fontainebleau or Bellagio, you want to exceed your guest expectations from the moment they step in the door. And what's a great moment to catch them is by giving them this fantastic opening experience when they walk into your property. So I do think, and then part of that is also having like a really wonderful staff, and they're the ones that are able to sort of connect and find these great experiences, and that's really what you need. So that's why I find sort of that human interaction so important. I also think that Vegas specifically is one of the best places, if not the best place, for hospitality. You really have, there's no other place in the world where the entire city is centered around one industry, and they have multiple generations of people that have been trained to act and have expectations of what a great hospitality and hospitable experience you should have. I've been to places like New York. I've been to LA, and in New York, it's and again, like I haven't stayed at places, very high end in New York, very, very run of the mill, like Marriott's, for example. And the service is just fine. But again, like if you go anywhere here in Vegas, everybody has that mindset that they're going to make hospitality a career or a very big part of their life. Doesn't feel like that in places like Los Angeles or New York. It feels like a job before they get the job they actually want. So it is very much one of those interesting things that I think this city specifically like really generates people who are meant to work in the hospitality industry. So I think we're just sort of spoiled as being in Las Vegas that's what we're hoping for. Also, it's a great aesthetic to the rest of the property. So how do I mean this? So like let's just say you're walking through the casino. Part of the aesthetic of your casino are the people that are working in it. So, for example, number one, your bartenders, your cocktail waitresses, your dealers. Specifically, nothing brings down the shine of your property more than having an automated blackjack table or automated baccarat table or roulette. It's very convenient, especially for people who aren't comfortable playing at live table games, but it makes it feel like you're in a casino. It makes it feel like you're in Las Vegas. So I don't think that those jobs are going away by anytime soon. I do think that they are doing a bigger movement to having more automated tables to fit the demographic who's coming to Las Vegas. And that's just a normal sort of trade of Las Vegas and gaming in particular. But I think, for example, cocktail waitresses are indispensable for Las Vegas. Do they take a long time? Sometimes yes, because they're human beings. But I think that's part of the beauty of a property is the uniforms that they wear and the people that sort of populate this space. It tells you that you're in a different place. So one of my the properties that's close to my house, which is South Point, to me has some of like the most beautiful cocktail waitresses, just because of that. But also it's because the uniforms, and then also places like Circa, and then also like the Wynn. I always love to like go into new properties, and when you're looking at the properties, one of the things you look at is the cocktail waitresses' uniforms, because you want to see how much care was put into that, because I think it really sets the stage of the vibe you're trying to create inside of a property. So I think aesthetically speaking, that's also a reason it's important to have people being able to sort of show off what you're looking for that property. So yeah, cocktail waitresses I think are here to stay, and also just much more convenient than having robots walking around, obviously. And I think this is a really good example of everything has to have a certain level of care put into it. So like when MGM made the switch for the in-room dining to be more streamlined, they no longer do like carts. This is also just for regular in-room dining. They don't actually set up like a table with the heat pans and like actual plates. They sort of put it like in this box kind of, and that really just diminishes the experience of getting in-room dining. Everybody knows that in-room dining is more expensive than you'd like it to be. But if you're paying for somebody to actually put this all together and make it feel like an actual meal, then I think it's sort of going to take the sting out of paying the upcharge of whatever in-room dining would be. The great thing about working in in the luxury part of the hotel is that you don't feel as bad charging people for things because they're getting this full service experience. So, for example, our butlers, when they go down and get your food, they go down, they'll have it ready, they'll prepare it and put it on this like wonderful, white tablecloth. They'll wheel it in, present it to you. They'll have all the different items that you'd want, and it feels like you're having dinner in a restaurant, but in your hotel room. So it feels like you are getting that full service experience that I think you really crave in a Las Vegas hotel. So another thing comes down to, we do get a lot of issues, especially for people like in concierge or people in, the higher end parts of the hotels like Skylofts, Tower Suites, Fleur de Lis. And I thought about this today, is that yes, of course, you can make a reservation for a restaurant. People do it all the time online. It's great. And it's great when you can get a reservation. But what happens when you can't make that reservation, or you need to add somebody but it's not letting you? Well, that is where us, the human beings, step in and use our connections and our relationships to be able to reach out, talk to a general manager, and there's a lot more flexibility with that is very important for luxury guests. Does this benefit a very few number of guests? Yes, it does. But you being the world traveler you might be coming to Las Vegas, you might know a GM for a restaurant, you might know a host for a restaurant, and that personal experience works the exact same way. Or you can walk up to the concierge or somebody who lives here, and it's our job. You can ask us, and we can use our personal experience with that property or that restaurant to assist you with that. You're usually not getting a really great relationship with, a bot online or an automated system online as well. I think we've all had that same experience where you're trying to actually book something. And it's like, I just need to add one person. I just need to subtract one person. I need to move this to 7:30. And it even happens with us. Like, we'll be trying to call a restaurant, and a lot of restaurants keep the line for the hotel, and you're not able to get directly to the hostess, and that's exactly what we want. And this is sort of like the thing that I think sets people up in like concierge as well as, luxury parts of the hotel, is that we personally love to call hostesses, restaurants, because we know that's a direct person who has the most power to move something. So we actually love to be able to do that and talk to a human being, know where things are, and it just expedites the process greatly. But yes, like in luxury, for example, we do get a lot of very unique questions, and you also have people who want you to take care of it. And that's what we do, or they have an issue. So we tend to deal with a lot of those unique sort of questions. Moving a reservation, calling a general manager, booking show tickets, that's another thing. Booking cabana, obviously, is another deal as well. So I do think that it depends on your part of the world, but I would say that Las Vegas specifically, I think, is always nervous about new technologies and how they're going to be adapted. But I think we also know that there is a limit to that. And I think that a human connection is so important, especially in hospitality, that there'll always be a need for human beings working in those jobs. And I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe let me know, DM me, conciergeconfidential_LV, and let me know, hey, would you rather have a more automated experience checking into a hotel? Is it faster? Do you think, front desk agents, take too long, obviously? Should there be dedicated lines for, express check-in and then regular check-in? I think we've tried that, which I think it does help a little bit, because there are some people that just want their hotel room. They don't want any extras or anything like that. But it's really hard to get an upgrade out of a machine, essentially. But Yeah, I just love the idea that we have all these different specialties inside of a hotel, or inside of one community, doing a specific goal. So, for example, today, like, we had IT come in, and it's just like you have all these different departments working in one space, and I think it's for any industry. And I think hospitality is very unique in that case, and also just like reading, you know, body movement, and then also just like reading between the lines. A lot of that is in the city. So yeah, I just really wanted to sort of hit this episode with just how I felt about like automated systems essentially, and then also checking in digitally. I do think that connection is important, and there's lots of moving parts, especially when you get to the luxury part of our properties. I would definitely say that when you get to higher luxury parts of hotels like Skylofts, Skylofts, the Tower Suites, the Sky Suites over at the Aria, Villa Services at the Bellagio, you tend to get a lot more people interacting with you than you would think. You get a lot more questions because we want to tailor this whole experience. And yeah, it's also just one of those things, like butlers go and service all these rooms and serve these guests, and they pick up on like what you like to drink and how you like to drink it. There was a really good example today where we had a high roller who was in one of the salons who really liked his coffee a certain way. And we knew that because we actually had a butler who had served him, before. And he says, oh, yes, he always likes it this way. He always likes it with like a side of milk. And we want it, in this type of glass. And those are all things that we pick up on because somebody actually served that person. And I think that's really cool. I think that's what the really cool thing about luxury service is, those little details that it's all about anticipation. And I think that's the really cool part about working in luxury services. So little short episode today. My mom was in town, which shout out to my mom. She's making brownies at the moment. And then she also made great dinners. Oh, we're going to do it last. We're going to do it now. So we're doing the news of Las Vegas on the last part of the episode, which my mom came into town. We went out on, what was it, Thursday? So on Thursday she got here, and we ended up going, I think we stayed, oh yeah, on Thursday we actually ended up going to the Bootleggers, which we'll do an episode on Bootleggers later. But Bootleggers, historic spot. Like when you go in there, it feels like lots of celebrities walking through there. There's a picture of Don Rickles, which made me very happy. We'll probably do a video on it, and we'll put it on our socials. But really fantastic. So really, Bootleggers, old school red sauce Italian joint. Lots of like classic favorites. It was good. Maybe not like my vibes in terms of food, but in terms of like vibe itself, like really old school, like take your kids there Italian joint. So really, really cool. But that was on Thursday. Then on Friday, we saw the Devil Wears Prada, which was cool. Fantastic experience. And then on Saturday was the big day, where we actually ended up playing a little bit at the Venetian, the Wynn. We ate at Red 8, which was at the Wynn, of course. And then had to take my mom to Delilah's for a couple cocktails, introduce her to some people. And there was a special performance, which I've never been here for a drop in one of these, of Robin Thicke was in the house. So we were able to watch like a set, which is like, I don't know, like 15, 20 minutes, probably about 20 minutes of Robin Thicke gracing the stage at Delilah, which was awesome. It was actually really cool. Like, granted, how you feel about Robin Thicke, but it was fun that it was just like happening, and we had a great time. So that was really fun. And we had an espresso tiramisu, which was super delicious. That was great. That was really, really cool. So what else happened over the weekend? So we did get, and maybe I'll post this, we did get an order for 10 dozen roses for a room, which if you're wondering what 10 dozen roses costs, it's about $900, just in case you're wondering to get that for a hotel room. And it was a very large order that took 2 people to take it up. And it was very, very, very large. So I'm sure that person was quite loved. But that was the news of what happened because my mom was in town. So I know that this episode went, quickly, but my mom, very lucky at the table. She's making brownies, which means I'm going to win. And I'm very excited about that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode and kind of the trip down why, having humans operating inside of in hotels is so important. I think it really creates, it builds a connection with the guests, and really it takes a human to help a human, to be completely honest with you, especially very quickly. So with that being said, thank you so much, everybody. Make sure you follow us on all of our socials, Concierge Confidential _LV, Brian _Ortega 26 on Instagram, and then at Keys to Vegas on TikTok. So again, really appreciate it. If you see me out in town, come up and say hello, but remember, keep it confidential.